The Great Gatsby and Songs from the Portuguese are today classic pieces of literature from different eras respectively. But what makes them classic pieces? Relevance. These texts become classics because they achieve a timelessness in the way they relate to any audience of any context. So let's have a closer look and see what these texts have to say. Love, a universal theme, can be seen in both texts and hence acts as a medium in which the significance of context can be grasped. Because texts are a product of their context, the relation is best seen when the values and their perspectives are contrasted, to which the bias of the author shines through. Breaking down love into idealism, realism, as well as social stratification and social rebellion, allows us to see the inherent distinctions that envelops universal concepts, thus gaining better understanding of contexts and their fundamental significance in shaping our modern society. Idealism. The post-war period of the Jazz Age revolved heavily upon the American dream. It was an era of opportunities and hope, a chance to reinvent one's identity. While idealism resides heavily with Gatsby, here one of the main characters is shrouded in obscurity. He states at the beginning he is the son of wealthy people in the Middle East, all dead now.
And it's Gatsby,
This is Baz Luhrmann, a director of 2013 film, The Great Gatsby.
is babbling like a mad and trying, doth protest too much about his background to convince Nick that he's a great guy.
Yes, your opinion. I don't want you to get the wrong impression from all these bizarre accusations you must be hearing. A pack of lies, I guarantee. You've heard the story.
The caesura expresses hesitation, highlighting a pause in his elaborate lie. Yet it also allows the audience to solely consider the isolated description of how Gatsby had nothing besides wealth, making the lie seem seemingly true. And as Nick states during the outset of the novel, enveloping the entire age in one statement, if personality is nothing but a series of successful gestures, and thus the irony in trying to find pure love, when Gatsby himself is nothing more than a series of successful gestures.
You see, I'm Gatsby.
Obscuring the Valley of the Ashes, whilst promoting moral abandonment in pursuit of idealism, the foul dust is a recurring motif as it acts as symbolism that envelops the entire country. It corrupts and preys on the notions of post-war hope and the great American dream, leading Gatsby in search of his endemic world, where the juxtaposition of abortive sorrows and the short-winded elations illustrate the superficial nature of those present in this era. Those of wealth with their new money move their hope to love, and thus gets preyed on, where Tom of old money has a skewed yet fitting perception of love. He expects his wife to be faithful to him, yet his infidelity with Myrtle parallels his irony. Once in a while, I make a fool of myself. In my heart I love her all the time. Where once in a while juxtaposes all the time, reinforcing his hypocrisy. Whilst the syntax of this sentence utilizes repetition, much like the Valley of the Ashes located in between Long Island and New York, it symbolically hides the corruption at the core of society. Likewise, the corruption in the core of Tom's persona being barely masked by his courtly veneer. Thus, within the context of the Jazz Age, Gatsby's naivety parallels his idealism in search for his elusive love. Where Gatsby sees this notion of ideal love, Elizabeth Barrett Browning prefers to see the realism that envelops it, including the successes and ordeals. Her past social context led her to be emotionally wrecked, thus adopting a Stoic doctrine. In Sonnet 32, Elizabeth Barrett Browning during the first quatrain references the first time the sun, symbolic of a new hope/beginning. Yet entailing this, it has brought to her the moon, dark and ambiguous, something not looked upon very often. Aware of the false Edenic caricature that encompasses love, Elizabeth Barrett Browning sees past its delightful facade to achieve the silver love, that it prevails. The emphasis in the context of Elizabeth Barrett Browning revolves around monogamy and fidelity, to which love is subsequently considered sacred and personal. Evident in Sonnet 28, Elizabeth Barrett Browning rereads the letters sent to her by Robert. The sonnet starts with, "My letters, all dead paper, mute and white." It seems plain on the surface, yet she claims it with the personal pronoun my, and is further affirmed through an exclamation. Here irony is further expressed, as she is a poet and words have expression. As the sonnet proceeds, they, the letters, seem alive and quivering, with the personification suggesting that though at first it may superficially seem simple, the love illustrated has depth and meaning to Elizabeth Barrett Browning herself. It is not for the world to see, but solely for herself and her partner. Thus, Elizabeth Barrett Browning's final ideal notion of love is extracted from her previous confirmations to which their love is real and thus sacred. Though not perfect, it transcends that of Gatsby. Its realism makes it ideal. Their love has depth, indicated by the spatial metaphor, depth and breadth and height. And where the jazz age is ill-suited, Gatsby's idealism is illustrated by hoping to achieve this depth in a superficial context, whilst Browning's social and personal context ultimately led her to attaining this courtship love. Under the wing of love, both texts portray personas inadvertently fighting against social normality, whilst finding love. In doing so, the texts present ideas of social rebellion and social stratification. In The Great Gatsby, Nick goes to state, "I called upon Daisy half an hour after we found him. Called her instinctively and without hesitation. But she and Tom had gone away early that afternoon, and taken baggage with them. Given the context of the jazz age, Tom and Daisy leave Gatsby's funeral unattended. There's great irony in the fact an event revolving around the people. But along with many unfamiliar faces, earlier attend his party, a showcase of wealth. The irony in Tom and Daisy's actions underpin the stronghold materialism has in the jazz age, and the lack of humanity and earthly emotion. This juxtaposes Gatsby's notion to claim love, an unmaterialistic notion in a materialistic context. As a result, this highlights Gatsby's personal rebellion with social normality, and hence highlights the significant values of the respective context. Furthermore, Elizabeth Barrett Browning depicts her own personal flight against social normality, through demonstrating social rebellion in her works. In Sonnet 22, she uses the words, "Our two souls stand up erect and strong," depicting a strong sexual connotation. In essence, the sexual connotations help Elizabeth Barrett Browning produce a further expressive and empowering masculine persona, through alluding to the socially forbidden, such as sex and other intimate topics, typically reserved for men. Similarly, in Sonnet 28, she elects to say, "seem alive and quivering," again words of sexual connotation, and yet again empowering herself through a facade of gender. The lines, "say over again, and yet once over again, speak once more, say thou dost love me," depicts a strong use of imperatives, creating a masculine persona, but also a tone of desperation through the evident repetition. Hence the resulting tone can be paralleled to the proposal with a sense of urgency, something rather bizarre for a woman. Similarly, Elizabeth Barrett Browning further conveys a persistent sense of rebellion when she reinforces her notions with more use of imperative, followed through with the listing of conditions demonstrating her will to express freely. Do not say, "I love her for her smile," her look, her way of speaking gently. Consequently, her newfound controlling role completely juxtaposes the norms of her context. In this case, the ideology being explored is that of a male-dominated culture in regards to the expression of courtly love, and imposing such a norm, Elizabeth Barrett Browning heedlessly highlights the significant perspectives unique to her respective context. Because Elizabeth Barrett Browning repeatedly comes back to the idea of adopting a masculine tone to voice her words, it becomes clear that Elizabeth Barrett Browning fights her own social equality war, while simultaneously searching for love. This ultimately gives light to the advancement and changes of social issues since her conservative era, when contrasted with the jazz age and the modern context. Parallel ideas from differing contexts inevitably highlights a dichotomy, contrasting views. Yet what entails isn't confusion, but much rather the pinnacle of understanding. This is reinforced through the comparative study of The Great Gatsby by Fitzgerald, and Sonnets from the Portuguese by Elizabeth Barrett Browning, where the comparison of love and social rebellion within the context of the Victorian era and the Jazz Age help underpin ideas, values, and attitudes unique to the respective contexts, hence highlighting the context's given fundamental role in shaping modern-day society. Thanks for listening. Yeah, brother.